This is a glimpse into what a funeral is like here in Cameroon. It's quite similar to what you would experience in the States in some ways, but of course there are many differences as well. Here we have just arrived, and the body had already come from the morgue before us. Typically the corpse is carried from the morgue on the day of the burial, and they carry the body in an ambulance, which is what they call a hearse here. And the hearse is usually followed by an entourage of cars similar to our burials, but often with loud music or sirens blaring, so it's quite an affair. The body is then presented for a period of viewing. In this case, the casket was brought into one of the rooms in the compound there, and those who wanted to could walk through and view the body. Typically, emotional outbursts are on full display during this time. This funeral actually was a bit different because the family members, including the deceased, are believers, and like 1 Thessalonians mentions, they don't grieve as those who have no hope. At this particular funeral, the casket was then brought back out for a time of preaching and sharing of eulogies. A missionary friend of ours, Tom Needham, was asked to share a message, and while he preached in Pidgin, the local pastor of this particular village of Menka, Pastor Gideon, translated in the local dialect.
Example where Jesus gave our people to look for our snake and then live. Now the same example for we.
Lo alene zezani musi le nung ni nyor pan zeni nyor wun chot la de semelene na pona wun pon.
Look and live.
Ogo nang in chora.
But the look, when you and me, when you're looking for Jesus Christ, look at that look when you're looking for the heart.
Nani nang yuwani pon nang nang wun Jesu ka pe ni nang yuwani anelo pon nang ni miman.
Now that look we're looking for the heart.
Am nang miman pon nang na mun ting pon.
After the preaching and the eulogies were shared, we had a time of singing, of hymns. The family was then called on to carry the casket to the burial ground. Most people here are buried on their own property. Cemeteries they're here, but they're not very common. It's more common for people to be buried right on their own land. So somebody had already prepared the hole. It was already dug to bury the casket. And they literally had to just walk a handful of yards to get this casket to the burial plot. From there, the casket is lowered into the ground, and men will use shovels to cover the casket up with dirt, and after each layer of dirt is thrown in, they will usually dance around on the grave to pack the dirt down. This is typically done to music, and in this case, a choir sang while playing some traditional African instruments. After the burial, guests are invited to stay for a meal. This is often a hardship on an African family because, unlike American culture, the family of the deceased is required to feed the large crowd of people that attend the funeral. And many people will try to help out by bringing a flask of some type of food, but the family bears the financial burden of providing the majority of the meal. So as you can see, there are some differences and some similarities. Hopefully this brief glimpse into the Cameroonian culture in regards to funerals has been helpful.